Peace be with you. I'm Pastor Stephen Gjerde at Zion Lutheran Church, and this is Picture Time, time during the week where we pause and look at some art that helps illustrate or picture for us the Sunday school lesson from the prior Sunday. And this past Sunday, the Sunday school children were studying Gideon and his 300-man army. You may recall that Gideon was a judge of Israel. What we mean by that was he was one of the rulers of Israel before there was a king. And so instead of being ruled by a president or a king or a Congress or a legislature or a mayor or something like that, or even just dads and moms, there were people called judges who are kind of different from our judges. Our judges look at specific problems brought before them, like a man who gets caught stealing something, and they judge that case, whether or not that man is guilty. The judges back then were more like defenders. Yes, they judged cases in Israel, but they also defended Israel against their enemies. And that's one reason why we remember Gideon and the 300-man army. The picture I have today is a picture that, how do I want to say, it's a pretty simple picture. I couldn't find too many pictures about Gideon and a 300-man army, and the ones I found I didn't think would work real well over the phone. So this one, I don't even know who did it. I don't know if anyone knows who did it. It is a kind of picture making or picture illustrating that was popular in America probably about, probably about 70 years ago, 60 to 70 years ago, maybe a little bit less than that, about 50 years ago. And what it shows is it shows not Gideon and his army, not really. It shows the army they were fighting, the Midianites. Now, you might remember that God had told Gideon to raise an army and fight the Midianites. The Midianites were people who were enemies of God's people. And God said to Gideon, you know what? Send home all the men who are scared. So they sent home the men who were scared. And then he said, send home the men who drink water by putting their face in the water and not by cupping the hands to the water, which is just a way of sort of thinning the army, because God wanted Gideon to have a very small army, an army only of about 300 men, to show that God is more powerful than man is. That even though man can raise a big army like the Midianites had, God can use a very small army to do big things, just as he can use small people and even weak people and sinful people like us to do great things in his kingdom. So here we have the Midianites, and they are afraid. They're getting out of their tents and are getting ready to run. Why? Well, look back here. Do you see all those lights? That's Gideon and his 300 men. We can't even see them. But what we see is the lights that they held. God told them, told Gideon to tell each of the men to take a clay pot with a fire in it and a trumpet, and they came running up at night on these Midianites with these clay pots with fire and with their trumpet and blowing their trumpets and making a lot of noise and breaking the pots, so that there is such a racket. The Midianites were so afraid, they ran away. I mean, it's brilliant, right? And that just goes to shows us a couple things. It shows us, first of all, that God's ways are not our ways. His ways are higher than our ways and wiser than our ways, right? He can think of things that we don't think of. And it also shows us that God invites us, his people, to be wise like that, to think of how we can do something differently, relying on his power than relying on our power, right? We are faithful to God, and by being faithful to God, we have a power that is greater than the power of us human beings. It's not really our power, it's God's power. So that's what he does with Gideon and the army of 300 men. They put fire in those clay pots, they blow those trumpets, they sneak up on the Midianites. The Midianites are so afraid, they go running away. God has the day in a very wise and even very funny way. And that is Picture Time for this week. And we'll see you again next week. Peace be with you.